Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Think Big podcast. It's episode 66, which means we've been doing this for 66 weeks. That's over a year, which is insane. That's like a year and 2 months now, which is kind of wild. If you're new to the channel, what's up? My name is Marlon Johnson. I'm hanging out here with one of my co-hosts, Alejandro Alvarez. And on this podcast, we talk about all things business, all things life, all things entrepreneurship, all things investing. And we come at it from the place of having the sort of conversations that really aren't commonplace, at least not if you're like a part of the mass majority, the 95% of people who really don't do much, who kind of live that middle class paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, which nothing against that. Like, please don't let it sound like we're beating down on those sort of people, but this is for the people that are interested in a different kind of life, a different kind of conversation. And so today we're going to actually be talking about the ugly side of entrepreneurship, because most of the time when we talk about entrepreneurship, when we talk about business, investing, all that kind of stuff, we're typically coming at it from the vantage point of the highlight reels about the $40,000 checks, the $100,000 months, the seven-figure portfolios, all that kind of stuff, which absolutely is a part of the game, right? Like, that's why we do a lot of what we do. If there weren't a big enough prize at the end of the game, I would say you're playing the wrong game. However, even though there is the potential for these big prizes on the back end, there's still a lot of garbage that you have to wade through. So what I want to do is I want to have a conversation tonight about what that looks like. But before we get into that conversation, let me just do a quick check-in with Alejandro and say, Alejandro, what's up, bro? How you doing today?
What up? Doing good today, brother. It's always a blessed day to wake up and see the next day. Thousands and thousands of people don't get to see the same thing, so I'm always blessed, brother. Especially to be here with you, sir. You have a new setup? Is that what's going on?
Nah, man. Nah, this is the same setup. You know what it is? I've been traveling a lot. I've been away from home for the last couple of weeks, so I probably just like put my computer back in like a weird position than now how it's normally sitting in the webcam. It's probably just sitting in a new spot. But nah, all the same. This is the same corner in my bedroom. I don't think most people
Okay,
even
but
know. You know how like you get used to seeing a person on like camera and like you get used to seeing like their studio, and then one day you get
yeah.
behind the scenes and you're like, oh, that's what it looks like. Like, I think if
Yeah.
most people saw the behind the scenes, like if they thought there was any magic here, they would be wildly disappointed.
I think at some point we could have seen, we were looking at your bed. Maybe you turned around or flipped it.
Yeah, that was a little while back. So actually, the way I'm set up right now in the room, I used to have everything twisted. So before you were getting like the look into my bedroom, now we
Yeah.
have literally just turned it 180 degrees. So now we got the wall behind me, the TV that has never been connected to a cable box as far as I'm concerned, and turns on maybe once a year. That's a lot. I turn it on maybe like once every 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But let's jump into it tonight, because I know Sam's going to be joining us a little while later. We're going to be talking about, like we said, the ugly side of entrepreneurship, and also shout out to some of the people like Anthony Johnston and Marcos Paulino who jump onto the podcast early. They start getting comments in. Anthony saying last week was absolutely fire, which is insane. Also, shout out to all the people who are on Instagram with me right now, because this is ridiculously cool. We're getting like our views are being boosted up by so many people on Instagram. Shout out to Caroline, Kane, Larry, the Lion, Nicholas, Kirk, just Steve-O, all the people. So without further ado, I don't want to get too distracted. Let's dive into this. So we're talking about the ugly side of entrepreneurship, and I mean, I have my own opinion on this, and I can talk about this pretty much at length. But I'm curious for you, Alejandro. Before I start, because you know me, once I start talking, I won't stop talking. I'll try to give everyone else an opportunity to go before me. When you
Is it okay if I interrupt you sometimes? I don't think I ever asked
dude,
for permission.
please, like,
Okay.
yeah, man, like interrupt. Like, that's the thing. If you don't interrupt me, I will just keep talking. Like, I'm used to being able to talk for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours like at a time. Like, the people in my coaching community see me do it all the time. Because they like it. They just let me go. You know,
It's
so
just a habit my
you guys
mom
need to
gave
be
me
able to,
when
like,
I was little.
yeah, so like jump in and interrupt me if needed. But what I want to know is, when we say the ugly side of entrepreneurship, what comes to your mind, and like what comes up for you, like when we look at the ugly side of entrepreneurship?
First thing that comes to mind is how hard it is. People don't emphasize on how hard it is. And not saying that it's hard where not everyone can do it, which in reality it is true, but not everyone that can at least pursue it. Everyone can pursue it, but I don't think everyone has the right expectations. This is actually a video that I released the other day. It's what Alex Ramosi said is people that expect it to be easy makes it much harder than it really is, which means it's hard, but it's not impossible. And the fact that you think it's going to be easy, it makes it almost impossible for you, because when you're going through hard things, you feel like, oh no, this is too hard, which in reality, oh no, this is what you're supposed to go through. This is part of the process. You're supposed to go through this. It's supposed to be hard. That's why there's a very
Right.
small percentage of human beings that makes it.
Right. And like, so with it being hard, right? Like what comes up for you? Because like when I think about it being hard, like, I want to explain like and go into detail on like what my definition of hard is, because I would say that today, for example, I had a hard day for in business,
Yeah.
which means like for me, when I say a hard day, one of the first things that comes to my mind, and I want to know in the comments if people agree with me on this one, is feeling like you're reacting to what's going on versus being proactive about what you want to make happen. Like there are days where I feel that my business is nothing more than being a fireman and I have to go and put out fires, and I'm simply responding to the text messages, the emails, the phone calls, the somebody reaching out to get my attention to say, "Hey, would you
Yeah.
look at this? Hey, look at this deal. Hey, look at this opportunity." And that is just what it feels like from a day. And when that starts happening, what happens with me is it pulls me out of my routine. It pulls me out of my like I start to feel lost, right? I start to feel like, whoa, wait a second, where was I going? What am I doing? Right. And I'm seeing some people are agreeing, like Wayne is saying, like apps, like same. Chris is saying, absolutely, like that's what's going on. Anthony says putting out a bunch of fires, right? Like that's my version of hard. And so
Yeah.
that was happening today. And I was like, wow, this freaking blows, because there are things I want to get done. Like I have my mastermind coming up this weekend, and there's a couple of things I want to make sure are dialed in before like my people get here on Friday. That like I was like, all right, great. Like I literally sat down, like plopped myself into this cheat seat, and I was like, all right, great, ready to get going. And then 8:30 text messages came in, and I was like, oh crap. And it was
Yeah.
things I had to respond to. So like that's one of those things when I look at like hard as like, yeah, as an entrepreneur, those are inevitable. Those sort of
Hmm.
days, right? Putting out like being a firefighter is an absolute inevitability. And what's interesting is even though I know it's an inevitability, it still sucks. Like I still don't actually want it when it comes, even though I know it's coming.
Oh yeah.
You
One
know,
thousand
like
percent, bro.
yeah, I was about to say, like, you ever get any of those days? And like, if so, what do you do like in those days? Because like, I actually, I went on IG Live like maybe an hour ago talking about this. But what do you do on
Yeah.
those days for yourself if you even get those days?
Bro, that's every day. I feel like there's a certain amount of like fires that I'm actually happy to get, because if you have fires in your business, that means you're doing something right. Period. You're doing something right. However, there are some fires that are just like, holy shit, I wish it didn't have to be this way. I wish it didn't have to be this fire. What could I have done to avoid this? Which towards the end, man, you gain wisdom from it, you gain experience, you gain knowledge from it. But there's some that you just wish never happened. And like, but for me, like whenever I have certain fires going out throughout the day, kind of like, hey man, this seller wants to sue us because I don't know, some random stuff. I'm like, holy crap, let's work on it. That's hilarious. They want to sue us because of what? That's funny. So because we know we're in the right. Like you have people that get really emotional about certain transactions when it comes to real estate, and
Yep.
in a situation where a seller, oh, I want to sue you because of this. I'm like, okay, did you know that the agreement doesn't say that? Did you read it? I'm like, oh. And it's just some funny stuff. It's like, hey, do you really want to go spend money and go find an attorney and do this when in all reality you're 100% in the wrong? Or you have a buyer maybe that's going to talk to our sellers behind our back so they can get the contract at a lower price and the seller can get a little bit more and kind of kick us out. Like stuff like that is just funny fires. Those are funny fires to me. Oh, the seller wants to back out because that's funny fires to me because it's actually fun when you solve it because everything has a solution to it. But there's always certain fires, bro, that are just like you're gonna get at least 1 or 2 fires a month that is just like huge, like more important than all the other fires you had throughout the day.
No, I agree with you. And here's something interesting. What's up, Sam? Dude, love your hair, bro. Like if I could have Sam sing here, like
He's
I
doing
would
the
be a
thing.
model. Like I would
He's
just be
growing
the
it
most
out.
handsome man alive.
You can just be the background, bro, and
Yeah, I think that's what we do.
it'll give us more views on the Think Big podcast.
Yeah, like dude,
Honestly.
like Sam came on and like the view count went up from like 40 to 561. Like, and that's not an exaggeration. Like we are sitting at 561 live viewers because Sam came on. How insane is that? Like,
Wow, bro.
You
yeah.
guys are
And
amazing.
Chris literally says, literally just thinking about that hair, right? Like, insane. Samsung, ladies and gentlemen, Samsung.
Please continue. You guys were in some deep talks right now. Then you guys just
Yeah.
slide around.
We're
But-
talking about the fires, bro.
But
The daily fires.
good. Let's actually talk about this. Also, what's up, Paulina? Paulina's hanging out on IG. Dude, on IG, we got shout out to all the people on IG tuning in right now. By the way, we got 40 people tuned in on IG. I got my IG loaded up on my screen to the right. So guys, if you're tuned in on IG, what I would love for you to do is migrate over to the YouTube channel because when you comment on Instagram, I can't do this. I can't like bring your comment up on the screen for people to see your name, see your faces. So if you just like comment the word YouTube or just go to my last Instagram story, you'll get the link to my YouTube channel and come hang out on YouTube with us. Plus, very selfishly, I'm trying to boost the algorithm insane amounts. So I can use your help for that. But can I tell you guys one of my biggest stressors on business, like about business? And this is something that I realized recently, and I work to fix it, but it still has like some lag days. I get like this internal stress where I actually start feeling kind of weird about myself if I don't make money that day. And I don't know if y'all have Sam's smiling. I feel like Sam has felt this way before. I actually stress out, and it's not even like an amount of money. It literally doesn't even matter the amount. It's just if I did not produce new income that day, I feel strange. And it's so uncomfortable for me that and it's a part of business. Like there will be days, right? There are seasons where like right now, if you ask me, what am I optimizing for in my business? I'm not optimizing for new revenue at this moment in time. I'm actually optimizing for client satisfaction, for fulfillment, right? Like, because ultimately what I'm optimizing for is down the road. And I'm just telling people straight up, I'm transparent. This might make me a terrible businessman, but I'm just transparent. It is who I am. I'm optimizing for referrals. I want to build a business that is 90% referral. That once I knock over the first domino with advertising or going out and doing whatever to get the first people through the door initially, then from there it becomes a snowball rolling down a mountain because we take care of you so freaking much. But because that's what I'm optimizing for, it leads to days like today where as I don't think I generated any new income today, but no, you know, I yesterday I generated income yesterday. The day before that, I did not generate any income. Actually, I don't think I generated income today. Let's just say I didn't generate income today. It leaves me feeling weird. And that's one of those weird sides of entrepreneurship where it's not about the money, but a part of you is very aware of the money. And that part of you is turned on. It has to be turned on. If you're a business owner, I would pray that it would be turned on, because when you're spending money, you're aware. Hopefully you're aware if you're a good steward of money. And so that feeling of money going out, but not coming back in, that's one of the ugly sides of entrepreneurship that people don't tell you about. When I did a flip last year, I there's a season. This is what people don't tell you about when like you're going out and you're finding investment opportunities, value add opportunities that you can go in and you can buy an asset for 40 cents on the dollar and 50 cents on the dollar, and you can go and put money into it, and eventually you'll be able to resell it or borrow against the equity that you've created, borrow against the appreciation that you created. The thing that people don't tell you is there's going to be a season, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months where you spent 200 grand to purchase the asset. So you went $200,000 into the red. And then you're putting another $80,000 into the asset to accumulate to force the appreciation. And then you're paying your interest, you're paying your holding costs. And so you're about 4 months into the project. You haven't received a single penny of profit. And all you've seen is your debt increase, right? Like, that's one of the ugly sides of entrepreneurship. Like, in the beginning, you actually need to build up a tolerance to that. You have to build up a tolerance to having a delayed gratification of money leaving your bank account and you not getting paid. You have to be able to do this. In fact, the best entrepreneurs in the world, the Jeff Bezos of the world, the Elon Musk of the world, these individuals have such a high thermostat for risk, for being able to be in that uncomfortable fire long enough for their operation to get to the size that it needs to be, to have enough momentum that it is now like a train. You cannot stop the momentum that it is in motion. But building that, oh my God, it's so uncomfortable. I'm just being real. Like, when you're in the middle of it, you can logically know it all you want. Like, we talk about it here, not for the sake of making the pain go away, but for the sake of reminding you that while you're in the fire, to stay in it just a little bit longer. Like, sit in the fire just a little bit longer. Please. For the sake of the world, for the sake of that single mother who is looking at her son and thinking, man, I hope one day there is an option for him, and he sees you out there performing. She sees you out there performing. Like, this has actually happened to me when we were in Houston. We got to meet a mother who said she looked at us, she looked at myself and Sam, because we were there speaking for this particular event last week. And she says, I'm inspired by you, not because of me, but for my son, that there is something I can see, because you guys are staying in the fire and you guys are making something of yourself. I know that there is an opportunity for him to do so as well. There's somebody waiting on you. It's, man, that's the ugly side of business, though. Like, you got to take other people's stuff on. It's a beautiful thing as well. But the reason I say it's ugly, because it's pressure. Now, I personally believe pressure is a privilege, but pressure is still pressure. You know what I mean? Like, I like lifting weights, I like working out, but it still doesn't feel good in the moment when that weight is over my chest and it is coming down. And also, I just saw shout out to, when I see a name, I gotta say, give him some love. Ryan Zolan popped in on the IG live. Shout out to Ryan Zolan, because that's a dude who understands this, like, that business is not all fun and games, yet he does this so his life could be more fun and games, right? He worked his butt off in order to get himself to that position. Please, please understand this about business. And I'm going to tell you guys this right now, by the way. When I get on Instagram, I'm going to share the highlights of my business. I'm going to share the highlights of my life. I'm going to celebrate those moments, and it's going to make it look so damn easy. It's going to make it look so damn fun, because I earned the right to do that after doing the work. But don't get it twisted. That does not mean that there are not some hard, difficult days. That does not mean there are days where I don't sit there and scratch my head and think, what do I need to do next? Like, I have no clue what to do next. Right? Like, I carry my V card with me. I still have my V card, by the way. I'm vulnerable.
What's a V card, bro?
Vulnerability. I saw with Sam. Sam's been on his only Sam's way too much. Like, you saw his face. Like, he was like, wait, bro, what?
Yeah, I was like, I know you, bro. You ain't carrying around the V card that I thought you were saying.
Like, it's that vulnerability, right? Which means I'm vulnerable enough to say, I need help. There are days that I just straight up need help. And anyone that was hanging out with me on Instagram Live earlier today, you saw it. Like, you saw me coming from, like, Sam popped in there for a minute. Like, I was like, yo, today was like a 3 out of 10 for me. Energetically, business-wise, like, it was just a 3 out of 10. And people consider me to be a successful entrepreneur. I consider myself to be a successful entrepreneur. And I still had a 3 out of 10 today.
Can you,
Marlon, was
I want you to
that
hit on
3?
this, man. I want to ask this, so important. Marlon, you had a day, I don't know if you went over it today on YouTube, but you had a day where things weren't aligned and they weren't perfect, and you didn't wake up and run through a brick wall. Things were slow. And you're someone that I think Alejandro and I consider to be kind of like the energizer bunny between all of us. Like, when I look at all of us in our friend group, I'm like, you're the guy who's always on. So on a day where you can't be on all the time, how do you deal with that?
Great question, Sam. The first thing is straight up, at some point, like, I just have to acknowledge, like, this is where I'm at today. And this is like I say it like, this is like the feeling that is with me. Like, I'm not this feeling, right? Like, but this is, like, it's like when I'm pissed off, I'm like, if I ever get angry, like, yo, anger is with me right now. Like, there's some anger hanging out with me today. And so just straight up acknowledging it and recognizing that I don't do my best work from this lower energy point. I don't do my best thinking. I don't do my best problem solving. I don't do my best communication from this place. So in that phase, in that place, I have given myself permission to go and get myself right, whatever that looks like. And so today, for get myself right, that genuinely looked like me saying, you know what? I got in like the mundane stuff that doesn't really need my energy to be anything special, right? Like the respond to emails, to clear out the inbox, like doing that kind of stuff that is important, but not like it needs me at like a 10. Got that done. And then I wrote down and acknowledged, okay, this is what I need to get done once I'm back to a 10. And now let me go disappear. Let me go for a walk. And I went for a walk, which, if anyone knows me, like, like, I'm one of those people where it's like, I feel like if I haven't earned the right to like enjoy myself, like, I'm the type of guy that says, like, you got to earn breakfast, right? I work out before eating breakfast because you have to earn breakfast. You have to earn the nap. You have to earn the lunch. But there are days where, no, you're responsible to go and get yourself right. So I went for my walk today, and that helped jostle things up a little bit. I came home, made a meal, sat down, and decided, like, hey, when I'm stuck in this place, the best thing I feel like I can do is now go and do my best to serve someone else. And so that's why I was on that Instagram live, because you guys know I haven't been on IG lives in a while, but going on IG live, I feel like I always connect with somebody. And I had 4 separate individuals, 4 different people after that IG live reach out and send me a DM. And they're, dude, literally said, one of them, Carlos, hopefully Carlos doesn't get upset that I said this. He goes, you don't even realize what you shared today, totally unscripted, just coming on, being authentic, was exactly what I needed to hear today, because I was feeling like I needed this message today. I'm grateful that you came on here unscripted today. I'm grateful that you just showed up, especially at the time you showed up. Not me talking about it next week after I'm all good and I can reflect on it from a better vantage point, but like in the raw, authentic moment, I showed up. So that's what I do when I am finding myself now in those like 3s out of 10s on those days. I look to go get myself right. And then from there, I start looking, how can I use this opportunity to serve somebody else?
Let's go.
What about you, man?
I mean, oh, wow. I just did the same thing. I was going to ask you, what about you, Mr. Sam?
You go first. I was late to the party, so I don't have the right to
what's your question, brother? Let's roll.
On a day where you wake up and shit isn't 100 out of 100, right? You maybe don't feel the same focus. You maybe don't feel the same discipline, right? You wake up, something feels off. You don't feel productive. And because the 3 of us, I know us, I can almost guarantee the 3 of us, if we're not being productive, we kind of feel guilty about it too. But there are days when you wake up and shit's just not happening. You're not moving the needle and you feel guilty about it. But it's hard. It feels like you have to walk an extra mile to start moving the needle. How do you deal with those low days, those low energy, those low motivation days?
I focus on myself. I focus on myself, on what to do next. I detach myself from a lot of things, such as electronics. Detach myself from, sometimes I'll tell my guys, like, hey, I won't be able to be in the meeting this morning. I'm going to be handling some big fires that I have going on right now. So what I do is I sit down and I think about all the possible outcomes I can find to solve all the fires I'm going to have throughout the day. And that's really what pushes me down. I physically write a lot of stuff, bro. Like it's all right here. Oh, all right here. Physically write stuff like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Write them down. And then I have like a checklist. Once I figure out all my possible outcomes, I write down a checklist of the best outcomes that I think it's going to be working for me that day. And then I go through that checklist. And that's what makes me feel like I have succeeded the day or defeated the day of, even if it's what's up, Don Rich? Shout out to Don Rich. Even if it's 1% out of 100, Sam, for me, that's worth it, man. If I get 1% out of my day in a positive traction, as long as I'm not moving backwards, I feel like I won the day. All the fires, everything that's going on, as long as I can have that checklist and at least move the needle forward, I feel like, and I think majority of the time, that's how you're going to feel, man. You're going to feel like you really haven't done much, even though you've done a whole bunch of stuff to get rid of what you have going on. You're going to feel like you haven't done much, but you look back maybe a couple of days later and you're like, wow, because I did that one day, I'm able to do this today on Friday, which is going to get me closer to that 100%, if that makes sense.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give my take on this. And my take is a little bit. I tend to be a little bit more aggressive on my approach to how to deal with being lazy, how to deal with a day where you don't have motivation, you can't move the needle. This is something that I always knew that I did, but I didn't understand that I did it until I heard Alejandro talking about it a long time ago, and that is defining consequences. There is a consequence of action. One of the consequences of action is the needle's going to get moved forward. The business will grow. You will grow as a human being. You're going to make money. A consequence of me showing up and doing the damn thing over and over and over again is that I win. But there is also equally a consequence of not doing shit. And what I've constantly found is on the days that are the hardest, or the days that we tend to not give ourselves consequences. We tend to just not do the work and just kind of look the other way and watch some TV and feel and give ourselves the room to be like, you know what, it's okay. Not every day is going to be an amazing day, and not every day can I move the needle. So I'm just going to let myself be me. And as certain phenomenal entrepreneurs and motivational speakers in our industry or in entrepreneurship talk about it, that voice is something we should all label the bitch voice. And that bitch voice is the one that wants you to take the day off. And so what I've gotten to do is, Marlon, you both know this. You both, Don Rich, who's here. Don, so good to see you, man. You all know that I have two wives outside of like my family and my two brothers and my dogs. And my wives are to create an organization that fights human trafficking and to create one of the greatest animal sanctuaries on earth. Now, the reality is a consequence of my inaction is those two things take longer to create. And so for me, it's not even like taking a day off. It's not like, oh, the calls don't happen or the money doesn't come in or the deals don't happen or whatever the hell it is. That is not the consequence of the inaction. I've basically gotten myself to a point where I know a day off equals another day a woman and a child have to go without being saved from sex slavery. That is the consequence. And a lot of people will be like, damn, that is extreme. That is extreme. That is an extreme weight to put on it, to put on myself as an individual. And the reality is, hell yeah, it is. It absolutely freaking is. But the people in my life didn't sacrifice for me to be here to take days off and just have no consequences. So I would ask everyone here, just ask yourself this at the end of the day. It's okay, whatever the answer is, because I'm myself. I'm just my own human being. Ask yourself, why are you doing all this? Who are you actually trying to impact? If the answer is you're only impacting yourself, then it's totally fine, right? Then do whatever you want to do. I really don't give a damn. But if you're someone like me and you're obsessed with helping everyone else, the reality is me taking a day off equals a woman or a child in a third world country being abducted by cartels and being sold into sex slavery. Like that day off, I don't know if you guys know the stats of this. I'm not going to get into it, but human trafficking is bigger than it's ever been. bigger than it's ever been by far. Nothing comes close. No time in our history as a species has it been as bad as it is today, especially with animal poaching, illegal animal poaching, the exotic animal trade, where horrible, horrendous things happen to these sentient beings. The reality is every day I take that's a day off is a day that not tens, not hundreds, probably tens of thousands of innocent lives basically have to pass on and never get the savior that they need. That is the weight of responsibility that I have on me. And when you feel a day with low motivation or low discipline or low work ethic or low whatever, and you confront yourself, okay, cool, this is literally what I've gotten myself to do at this point, is I will say, Sam, great, you want to take a day off because you feel like shit or you feel lazy or whatever the hell it is. 20 women, 10 children, and 17 animals. That's the cost of your day off today. And just sit. And what's always going to happen is you will yourself into work and you will move that needle. So if you find that you're struggling with these days, assert a consequence of your inaction and make it a big one. Don't make it just be, oh, Sunday and that's it. I just didn't get the calls in. Make it bigger than that. If you do that, I can promise you're going to start moving a lot faster.
Let's talk about this for a second, because Colbert Universe says, right, he came over from Instagram. He said on Instagram he was going to say that the reason we all have fires is because we haven't cultivated enough relationships with folks to give us advice. And notice how, like, Sam, like, you just coming on just now and you talking and you sharing your perspective. See, what happens is sometimes we get stuck using our own perspectives. We get stuck looking at things from, most of our problems aren't actually problems when you look at it from another perspective. There are opportunities. Yep. There's reasons to overcome. Their gifts. And so, Sam, as you came on just now and you started sharing your perspective, it's like, oh yeah, you know what you just did? You just fired me back up. Right? Like, hearing your perspective, because you're absolutely right. Associating consequence to your inaction. Associating consequence to your inaction is a part of how we stay in this game, how we stay in the fire longer. So absolutely love that. Now, one of the other things that is just, I want y'all to understand, if you get into entrepreneurship, one of the ugly sides of this business and let me phrase, when I say business, I'm talking ultimately, like, regardless of what the business you're in the business of, we say it like marketing and sales, right? Like, you're always letting people know what you have, and then you're always selling the service or the solution to that problem, regardless of what the service and solution looks like. And you're going to come across partners, you're going to come across people that you've got to interact with. And the ugly side of entrepreneurship and business is people aren't going to communicate the same way you do. Like, that's just the truth. And like, that is the nature of reality. It's like, Sam likes to say, people go on people. And so with that being the case, sometimes you can accept it when those people are your customers and you're like, all right, whatever. I understood that people are going to people as a customer. But sometimes those peopling are going to be your partners. The people that you're supposed to be working with, your business partners, your JV partners, your partners in some form of transaction, your employees. And that is just the ugly side of business. It's people are going to do their own thing. And I got no problem with people doing their own thing, but when they stop communicating. In fact, I had this happen last week where I reached out to one of my partners, a person that, like, I've worked with and I've done business with. I love the guy. Great person. Sent him a message, and just unfortunately, he just did not respond to the message ever. Like, even to this day. And I can understand a message being responded to late. I get it. We're all very busy. I respond to messages late all the time. However, to respond or to send another message without responding to the previous message is what happens. It's like, it's just in business, this will happen. And you're going to be scratching your head trying to figure out, why is this occurring? Welcome to entrepreneurship. Welcome to peopling. Because entrepreneurship is peopling. It's having to deal with people. So a big part of when this starts to happen, what you have to do is recognize your standards are growing. When this begins to bother you, your standards are growing, and you now need to get better about communicating what your standards are earlier on in the relationship, earlier on in the interactions. So because of these things that have happened on like in business where people have failed to communicate in the way that I feel they should, or the way that I now deem acceptable for me, I now set a new expectation with new people I meet. So now the person I meet tomorrow is gaining the benefit of the person that screwed me over last week, because I can now communicate more effectively to the person tomorrow that, hey, by the way, when we communicate, what's going to happen is I'm going to shoot you a message and I just need a response within 24 hours, even if it's just the simple like on an iPhone, because you should have an iPhone if I'm texting you. Just being honest. And so this is one of the things about business. And so I'm curious with you guys too. Have you run into that same problem, or is it just me? Like, am I the only one that gets ghosted in business? Or like, I definitely not nearly as much anymore. Like I said, with the new relationships, but have y'all experienced that side of like business and entrepreneurship where you're getting ghosted not just by customers, but by people that are internal to your workings, right? Like partners and employees.
For me, it's a hard line. I have upfront expectations, right? I want to be honest here. So I have upfront expectations with all of my people who want to work for me, especially my directors. They have to understand, they have to affirm to me that I will not always be there, because I travel, because I'm in demand, because I'm speaking on stages, because I've got to solve big problems. So I want to make sure it's always a two-way street, and it's always fair and there's reciprocity. So for me personally, all my people know you're going to text me and I may not text back. And it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I physically cannot do it. Marlon, you've traveled across the country with me. You know how busy we can get. It becomes very difficult to jump on the phone with someone that works for you and help with a seller, help with an agent, or whatever the hell it is. So, but the agreement that we have with all my people is stay persistent with me. Never think it's in bad faith. And as soon as I am able to, I will get back to you. And the agreement is equally the same way. Now, this is important. Every time I go out and speak, my team actually knows where I'm going, what I'm doing, what my schedule, what my itinerary is going to be. So it even goes into the day. They know, hey, I'm going to be speaking, at ASU, right? They know that in the morning I'm jumping on a plane, I'm going to land and I'm going to get deep work in, and I'm going to get ready. And for the rest of the evening, after about 3 p.m. on Thursday, I'm completely going to be unavailable. So I'm okay with them equally not responding to me right away or missing something, but I have to know why that is. And I think, to your point, it all comes down to ample communication, upfront expectations. But I will say this, I'm at a point right now in my business where if I have a partner or a director and this is a consistent trait, it just will not work out. It is not something that I will allow. That's just me personally. We'll like nip that in the butt real quick. What about you, Alvaro?
Right, because you have that standard now with your business, with your directors and things of that nature. Is there a grace period anymore for poor communication? Just out of curiosity between the both of you, because I was actually even talking to one of my partners today, and she and I had the same opinion. So I'll share my opinion in a moment. But I'm curious for you two, is there any grace period on poor communication?
I would say if it comes up, we address it. I care about this. My grace period is we've addressed it once, don't make us address it twice. And this is a thing that we always see in the communities that we're in. Like, people F up some stuff, and right, like deals go bad, things happen. What always ends up hurting more than anything is just not over communicating and getting out in front of it. So that's my thing. So if poor communication happens, I'm going to address the hell out of it right off the bat. And then you basically get one shot. And then from there, it has to basically go swimmingly. And then usually what ends up happening, the directors and the partners that I've, really kind of resonated with and they last with me are the ones who understand, like, hey, if something's going to get in my way, like, let's just get out ahead of it. It doesn't hurt to get out ahead of it and let Sam know, or let the other partners know, we're not going to be able to communicate right now. Like, one of my, the head of my dispositions, her name is Sasha. She's amazing. Like, she probably needs to take a whole 1 to 2 weeks off. because she's been working her butt off tremendously, and she needs to take time off. And here's the thing. She and I have talked about this, and I've told her, hey, straight up, if you need to take 2 weeks off, just shoot me a text, let me know, and I personally will not bother you until minimum 14 days after. But we get out ahead of it, so there is no lapse. And another element of like getting out ahead of it is she has to let all of our partners know who do business with us that the same thing's going to happen. So I'm okay with a lapse in communication, but moving forward, it has to be almost like planned miscommunication almost, right? Like for me, the grace period is one time, dude, straight up.
Yep. No, I agree with you on that. What about you, Alejandro? What's kind of your thoughts there with communication?
I say for me is just setting up the upfront contract is always going to be the best way to do it, because like Sam said, I myself, like let's say you have a partnership and you're the one dealing with all like the fires. They're not, right? They're probably, I don't know, doing something else, and that gives them the freedom to have more access to their phone. And you're the one dealing with all the fires. If there's a situation where that partner feels like, oh man, there's no communications or something is going on, address it. I like to address it. Hey man, if it's something important, just call me. Just call me. Pick up the phone and call me. I promise you I will answer the phone every single time. If it's important, call me. Don't text me and then feel like, oh, you haven't been communicating with me. Or like it's very simple stuff. Like when people start making assumptions, because once that's very easily to start making assumptions whenever people miss the communication. They start thinking bad things. Oh my God, this is going on. This is horrible. When you pick up the phone, oh, that's what's going on. That's how you handle that. So just pick up the phone. Like for me, I'm definitely in a position where it's really difficult whenever you're handling a whole bunch of fires. But as soon as someone calls me, hey, what's going on? Talk to me. Always on it. But I think it's the upfront contract that matters, Marlon. Like, hey, I'm not the guy that's going to be constantly texting every morning, every day.
Yep.
Just know whatever we have going on, I am attacking it consistently every single day.
I love that. I love that. And so I agree with you guys on that wholeheartedly. In fact, I was having a conversation with one of my other partners, Ingrid. She and I own the property out here in Arizona together, and we're also looking at we're actually currently underwriting a 13 unit deal that right now the math is mathing, like the pencils are penciling, which I like. It's out there in Apache Junction. So we'll see if we end up pulling the trigger on this one. And she was explaining that she actually had a situation, a deal that went kind of south. It went weird on it. And she said the only thing that saved it was the fact that like the other person was like just communicating with her. And I said, it's really funny because I had a business partner that I was getting ready to do more business with, that I actually recently was wanting to do more business with. And when I sent them a message, like over a week ago, and they still haven't responded to it. And I was like, dang. And but here's the crazy thing, because like I get your point, Alejandro, too, where it's like text, like not respond. I've also sent phone calls, no response. So in entrepreneurship, right, like just understand, like people are going to not respond to you, and the tough thing is like recognizing, like, hey, you got to keep moving forward, right? Like you just have to keep moving forward. And so even with this keeping moving forward thing too, one of the ugly sides of entrepreneurship that I think doesn't get highlighted enough is the fact that, and you started off the conversation with this, Alejandro, the episode with this, entrepreneurship is really fucking hard.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
mm-hmm.
really, 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 really ridiculously. Oh my gosh, it's actually not easy. And I want to scream that for the rooftops for everybody in it, because when I tell you it's hard, I'm not saying this as a way to discourage you. By the way, if you're here's what I'm going to say. If you can be discouraged and feel the need to quit entrepreneurship because Marlon just said entrepreneurship is hard, then all I did was save you time, because you were going to quit anyway. Because quitters quit. Like that's what they do, right? Losers lose and quitters quit. Real talk. However, if you're serious about this, understand it is difficult. In fact, embrace the fact that it is difficult. I signed up for this because it was difficult. Because if it weren't difficult, everybody would be able to do it. There wouldn't be enough opportunity. There just wouldn't be. So the ugly side about that, the reason I bring that up is because as you step into that, what's going to happen is it's going to get harder. The deeper you get into it, the more difficult the game, right? Like you got to imagine level 10 is harder than level 1, and level 1 is already difficult. Right. And we're all talking about wanting to get to level 10. We want to get to level 20. We want to get to level 100. Just like any other video game, like does the game get any easier the deeper in you get? No.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually get easier. What happens is you get better at the game, but only if you take it serious, only if you actually play the game. Like
I
you
like
play the
to
game for real. What do you got, Alejandro?
I like to touch base with what Brian said. He says on here, why do people say yes and they ghost you? Just be a man and say what you think. Say you change your mind or whatever. Not that complicated. Honestly, and transparency over anything. What I like to say to that, Brian, is do your best to take it upon yourself to avoid that from happening. You can only do so much. Obviously, we can't control other humans, but what you can do is set the right expectations and set some commitments as well. So, for example, if you're talking to this guy, if I'm talking to Marlon and Marlon and I, hey, we're going to start doing this business, I would like to set some expectations. Hey, Marlon, I just want to let you know when I get in business, I like to have weekly communications. Would that be a problem for you? No, it wouldn't. Okay, got it. Perfect. When do you want to start? June 16th? Okay. Is there any particular reason why you need to cancel June 16th? Okay. Would it be anything throughout our conversations that we had today? Is there anything that just seemed concerning to you, or is there anything you still have to think about? I just want to make sure we're clear and we're 100% ready to go. Got it. So if on June 16th, I don't hear back from you, I'm going to assume that we're just no longer moving forward. Would that be a fair assessment to do? Yeah. Okay. Got it. If you do certain things like that and then you put on the calendar, you send that person that calendar invite, hey, June 15th, we start June 16th for this, it is going to be much harder for that person to quote unquote ghost you, because commitment, you have to put that commitment, you have to put the expectation, you have to give them the upfront contract. Now, if you felt like you did that, Brian, and that still happened to you, then obviously you know the answer to that. But if you felt like you didn't do that, then there's probably something else that you can work on, which we all have room to improve. You can work on to get that commitment out of that person, because you have to understand how that person likes to communicate. Maybe that person doesn't want to text you all the time. Maybe that's just not how they function. It doesn't mean that they're a horrible entrepreneur. Doesn't mean that you can't make millions for them. It doesn't mean that they can't be perhaps just on a phase of your business to help you get to a certain level, and then you guys can separate and do certain things. So I wouldn't necessarily just make a full assumption like, oh, it's ghosting me. Set the expectation, see what's happening. I don't know any context of what's going on over there, but I'm just giving you some perspective to look at. Perhaps, hopefully that helps.
Hey, I'm curious to know something with you guys.
What's that, Marlon?
I just had to I'll ask it in a little bit actually, because the question, the way I wanted to word it, just like escaped me. So I want to bring it back when it's a fresh idea, because it was in my mind. I should have written it down, and this is what happens. Sometimes I don't write the questions down as soon as they come to me.
Man's a deep thinker. Wise man. What about you, Sam? What do you think? Is there any other ways that you can avoid to having people ghost you, or do you feel like people that ghost you would be a terrible business partner? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. My thing is this. It's funny enough. It's the same. I was giving this advice to a friend of mine who is going through some interesting stuff with a female right now, and he's getting put into a position where he's kind of having to chase a little bit. And the reality is, as men, I think genetically men need to chase, right? Men like chasing. We like hunting. But I've told him, man, like right now, especially with women and especially on the trajectory that he's on, he's massively successful and he will continue to be massively successful. And I mean, I think he's going to be a billionaire one day. And I'm telling him, bro, the number one lesson that you need to learn, not just in business, but when it comes down to females too, is don't chase. And if you ever catch yourself being in a position where you are chasing, you're gonna lose. And that's just the raw reality of it. And don't get me wrong, guys, there's nothing wrong. Like, I know there's women who love playing hard to get. They love the game of it. It is what it is. I get it. But the reality is this: in any relationship with another human being, if one party is consistently put into a position where they feel they have to chase, eventually that fun chase will turn into resentment. So for me, I have a golden rule where I don't chase, like, no matter what, whether it's a girl, whether it's a business partner, whether it's a private money lender, whether it's a mentor, whatever it is. I don't care what you have to offer me and what the potential upside of it is. The second that I feel like I'm chasing is the second that I disconnect for my own well-being. So if you guys have partners who are like, they're agreeing and they want to do the things, but then they just keep dipping, I honestly say this: they're not bad people. They don't mean you any harm. They might, but just pretend they don't. And just respect yourself enough to be like, I'm going to go find someone who, no matter what, will prioritize working with me. And if this person can't do it right now, guys, trust me, I get that shit comes up. I get it. But the reality is, if shit comes up, someone who actually wants to work with you will get out in front of it, or they will, like, honestly, that's just it. They'll just get out in front of it. Like, hey, I am so sorry I missed our calls. My wife got sick. My kid's in the hospital, whatever the hell it is. Like, I need to stabilize this for a week. Give me one more week. Let's touch bases later. Cool. The communication's there. The effort is there. But if you guys are in a relationship, especially fielding business partnerships, you're dating, not in like personally, but dating a business partner potentially, and you keep seeing this, just realize that it's happening right now. It's only going to get worse later on. When you guys get to really know each other, when you guys become more comfortable, that's, in my opinion, when problems get exemplified or exaggerated more.
Give me advice for making business better, business easier. I don't know who's got the reverb, but give me advice for if, like, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm year one in business. How do I make it to year two? What's something that I should keep my mind focused on to make it into year two, knowing that business will be tough? Like, what words of advice, words of encouragement would each of y'all give me as a person in year one, wanting to make it to year two as successfully as I can? If you were only able to, sit on a park bench with me for 60 seconds, what would you tell me?
The first thing I would tell you is, hey, Marlon, the first person you need to defeat along this journey is yourself, your current self. And what I mean is by your current belief system. Your current belief system is what's going to hold you back 100%. So to do that, you need to surround yourself with people that are in higher levels than you are in your business. Prime example, if I was to start back then, well, I did start it when I first started wholesaling. I was around people that were making $1 million a year. So to me, that was the language was normal for me. It was very uncomfortable at first. Oh yeah, we just like, dude, my second wholesale deal was $70,000. I couldn't believe that. I'm like, what just happened? And after that, that's when stuff just started to become normal. But if you're hanging around people with the same belief or lower belief systems than you, it's going to be really difficult for you to feel any success or any motivation to propel forward. I have, and if it's okay with you guys to share, I have a Discord channel where I have a virtual office where people come in and they can see other people working on the phone. We don't say anything, and you're not allowed in there unless you are working. You're on the phone, you're marketing, whatever you're doing. You can't have your cameras off, your camera's on, so you can physically see everyone working in there. And that's a good environment, especially if you work from home. If you work from home, it's so easy to hear a family member in the kitchen doing something. You're like, oh, let me go check on my family member, see what's going on. Or, you know what, let me stretch and go get me a cookie in the fridge or whatever. Who the heck puts cookies in the fridge? I don't know why I would say something like that. It's hilarious. But you just keep you get easily distracted. But when you're on camera and people are watching you work, it's going to be tough for you to be like, okay, let me step away from these cameras. And then people are going to notice that I only really work 1 hour a day. You have to fight your inner self throughout that first year, because it's going to take time for you to start believing in yourself and believe that you can actually achieve greater things and become someone bigger. That is going to be the hardest thing ever. So Marlon, if we were having that conversation, I'd be like, hey, Marlon, and let's say I'm in a higher position than you are, I'd be like, hey, come with me, man. Join this. Do this with me every day. What are some struggles? We hold each other accountability. What are you struggling with today? What can help you today? What are your goals today? Okay, by the end of the day, I want to see that you achieve your goals by the end of the day. So that's what I would do. Someone says Oreo in the fridge, fam. What?
Love
People
that.
really put cookies in the fridge? Is that a thing?
So, Sam, 10 seconds. Advice to me. I'm 1 year. I'm in my first year in business. I want to make it to year 2.
Year 1 is the year you discover who you actually are. Year 2 is when the game actually begins. Don't put a lot of emphasis on year 1. Don't think you're going to make $1 million. Year 1, all you're doing is you're finding out who the hell you are in this game. You're finding out the good, the bad, the ugly. That's it. Get ready, be prepared, and know the game starts in year 2. That's it.
You guys heard it here. So this was episode 66 of the Think Big podcast, the ugly side of being an entrepreneur. We didn't want to just leave you on a negative note. Surround yourself with people who are doing much better than you're doing, and recognize that if you're still early in this game, if you haven't even made it to the 2-year mark, you are still in the discovery phase. You are learning more about who you are. So hold on to that, keep moving forward. And if you stop before you get there, that is the only way to lose. Guys, we'll be back here again next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on the channel. We appreciate it so much. If you're on Instagram, make sure you come on over to the YouTube channel next time. Way more things happening here. And for the people that are in Arizona, guys, I'm going to be in the state of Arizona for 1 more month before I go on a journey across the U.S. in the back of an RV. So if you want to connect, let's connect. DM me on Instagram. Let me know if you're out here in Arizona, or just plug into like my community. Comment, like DM me the word MMC on Instagram. Like it's 3 letters, M like Marlon, MMC, C like community, and get plugged into my community. Right, like it's funny. I put up a paywall between me and my network of people because I just want to know who's taking themselves serious and who's interested in going to the next level. So on that note, guys, please, if you're in Arizona on Thursday, go to ASU. Go meet the Sam Singh. I'm going to ASU on Thursday night to go see Sam Singh speak. I wish I could see Sam Singh sing, but I'm going to see Sam speak at ASU on Thursday. That's February 1st. And, Sam decided he was going to charge a hell of a lot for people to come out. I think, Sam, how much are you charging for people to come out?
I'm actually doing the opposite. So we're not going to charge a damn thing, but we're actually gonna hook everyone up with tacos. I think there's like 400 or 500 tacos coming. So it's completely free. Come see me speak. We're gonna actually do some amazing stuff. We do a meet and greet. We're gonna crush it on stage, and then we're also gonna feed everyone there. So please come see me. It's gonna be a damn good time.
Guys, it's going to be an amazing time. So if y'all are interested, make sure you go hit up Sam on his IG or go to my Instagram. I just shared the link that you can get registered. Please get registered so we know how much tacos to buy with Sam's credit card. I just want to know like how much I'm charging up. Like I'm trying to run the bill up to like $1,000. So we're trying to buy $1,000 worth of tacos and burritos. So please, 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 if you are planning on coming out, go ahead and pre-register. Click the link in my Instagram. And if you haven't noticed, by the way, if anyone ever says to me again, Marlon, I didn't know what you guys were up to. I didn't know that Alejandro was going to be doing that. I didn't know Sam was going to be doing that. I didn't know you were going to be traveling across the U.S. And you tell me that you didn't just go and check my Instagram, I'm going to call you a knucklehead, because I tell you guys every single week, it is my way of communicating with everybody at once, because I do not have the capacity, the bandwidth to be able to message each of you one at a time every single day to tell you what I'm up to. So I use my social media for that. So please, if you want to stay connected, if you want to be in the circle, if you want to do cool, epic things like jump out of airplanes, speak on stages, come meet and greet, ask questions, do all that good stuff, just follow us on Instagram. So, guys, we'll see you next week for another episode of the Think Big podcast.